Today, I F it up by owning a golden retriever while being black. After an incredibly rough day at work, the only thing I wanted was to unwind on the couch with some mindless TV while indulging in a meal I didn't have to cook myself. The solution? Delivery, of course. The allure of not having to prepare anything, coupled with the promise of my favorite comfort food, was irresistible. So, I placed an order and began the countdown to deliciousness. As I waited, I decided to let my dog out into the yard to burn off some energy. Our yard isn't huge, but it's ample enough for him to run around and get some exercise. I joined him outside, keeping an eye out for the delivery driver. Our house has a notoriously tricky address for GPS, and I've gotten used to standing outside to guide deliveries to the right spot. It's not just delivery drivers who get lost. Even Jehovah's Witnesses have trouble finding us. While we were outside, my dog noticed our neighbor's dog and immediately ran over to the shared fence. Our dogs are best buds, and they have a little routine where they meet up and play whenever they're both outside. There's even a doggy door in the fence just for them, so they can visit each other whenever they want. It's really sweet, and usually, I'm all for it. But today, I was on a tight schedule. I needed to grab the food and get back to the couch. As luck would have it, both dogs ended up in the neighbor's yard just as I received the notification that the delivery driver was arriving. I started calling out to my dog, but he was completely absorbed in his playtime. I had to use my stern dad voice to get his attention. Thankfully, my neighbor heard me and whistled for her dog, which made things a bit easier. I managed to get my dog to come back into our yard, albeit reluctantly. We have this game called Runaway, where I shout "Runaway" and start running, and he chases me like he's hunting the world's largest squirrel. It's usually a fun game, but today it was a tactical move to get him inside. Just as I got my dog through the storm door and shut it, I realized I'd made a rookie mistake. I had left the gate locked. The delivery driver was already getting out of her car, and I didn't have a mask on. Neither did she, and in the era of pandemic precautions, this was a bit of a dilemma. I quickly shouted from the porch, asking her to leave the food by the mailbox. That's when things started to get a bit weird. She looked at me, then at the dog who was now barking up a storm behind the screen door, and asked, "Is that your dog?" Her tone was curious but not accusatory, so my bullshit radar didn't go off. I thought she was just making small talk because, dog people love to talk about their dogs. I started gushing about my dog, telling her his name, a few cute quirks, and even offered if she wanted to say hi. She just stood there awkwardly for a moment, then put the food down and jumped back into her car. I thought, okay, that was odd. But whatever, I was hungry. I grabbed the food and went inside, noticing out of the corner of my eye that she was still parked outside. From my kitchen window, I could see the street, and she was still there, just sitting in her car. I thought it was a little strange, but figured maybe she was checking her next delivery location or something. I went about setting up my meal, which was looking delicious, by the way. Just as I was about to dig in, my dog started barking like crazy. I checked the cameras and, sure enough, the delivery driver was still out front, parked directly in front of my mailbox. Now I was really starting to wonder what was going on. I went outside to see if she needed directions or something, but she was on the phone and didn't notice me. I pretended to check the mail, hoping she'd acknowledge me, but she just drove off towards the back of the neighborhood, which is a dead end. People often get lost back there, so I figured she'd turn around soon. But minutes passed and she didn't come back. At this point, I thought maybe I was overthinking things and shrugged it off, focusing on my meal instead. Just as I was about to take my first bite, my dog started barking again. I checked the cameras and saw 2 police cars pulling up in front of my house. My first thought was, what the hell is going on? I watched as the officers got out and started walking around, looking at my house and my neighbor's yard. I went outside, trying to figure out what was happening. The officers introduced themselves and explained they were there because someone had reported a stolen golden retriever at my address. It clicked instantly. The delivery driver must have called the police. I explained the whole situation, how the dogs were playing together, and that my dog was very much mine. The officers were polite but asked if they could see the dog. I brought him out, and he, being the friendly pup he is, immediately went to greet them. His collar had tags with my address and phone number, which matched my ID, so that was enough proof for them. They apologized for the mix-up and started to leave. Just as we were wrapping up, the delivery driver's car appeared at the end of the street. I pointed her out to the officers and they stopped her car. She rolled down her window, and to my surprise, she was crying hysterically. She started ranting about how she saw me take the dog from the neighbor's yard, saying something about how animals get no justice. Then, the kicker, she said that people like me only own pit bulls or Rottweilers, implying there was no way the dog could be mine. At this point, I was done. I didn't want to deal with this lady's drama, especially not after the day I'd had. I told the officers they could handle it and went back inside. From what I could see on the cameras, the officers talked to her for a few more minutes and then let her go. She drove off and they left soon after. I assumed she got a warning or something, but I didn't really care at that point. The whole situation was absurd, but I guess it could have been worse. I reported the incident to the delivery service, and they were very apologetic, offering me credits for my next meal. I used them to order from a local bakery and treated myself to a slice of carrot cake, which was the perfect ending to a stressful day. I'm just glad the situation didn't escalate further, and now I have a crazy story to tell.